Well, if you haven't been with us over the last 3 or 4 weeks during the Christmas season, we have been looking at some of our favorite Christmas reels and connecting them to the real Christmas story. So week 1 and 2 was Elf. Elf was just so good. I had to do 2 weeks of Elf, and that was a fun couple weeks that we did there. We did the Christmas story last week. We looked at It's a Wonderful Life, and you can find all those messages online. Tonight, we are looking at, as Emily said, Home Alone. Now, if you have not seen the movie Home Alone, please come out from under the rock you've been living in for the last, is it 20 years now? I mean, how long has this movie been out? 30! Oh my lands. I'm feeling old. Feeling old. Anyway, if you haven't seen the movie, let me catch you up. There's this little boy named Kevin whose parents and family take a trip without him accidentally. They go to Paris. He's left at home alone. And it turns out there are 2 guys who are trying to make it big. They're trying to get rich by robbing people. And it just turns out that Kevin's house is on the hit list. The 2 robbers would probably say the wish list. And so here they are trying to make money off of rich people. And so they go around and rob people. And they find out that Kevin is home alone. And so the entire movie is about this little boy who's constantly scared out of his mind, and he's fearful for what's happening next. And there are a lot of scenes in the movie where he feels like he is all alone. In fact, as much as he can't stand his family, he's often thinking about his mom and thinking about his parents and his loved ones. And he's all alone in this. And so tonight I want to give you a scene that is often overlooked, but here's what I want to show you tonight. All right. So let's make the connection. Just like Kevin on the run, when Jesus shows up in the world, let's just put it this way. It was not a silent night. All was not calm, and all was not bright. And I promise I won't sing the rest of the song to you. But when Jesus shows up, it was arguably one of the most violent years in history. And in fact, we know from history that people were afraid, they were on the run, and you could argue in some sense that they felt like they were all alone. And so I want to read you some of the Christmas story that we often overlook that I think will help us in this Christmas season and in this next year in 2021. It says this: After Jesus was born in Bethlehem village, the Judea territory, this was during Herod's kingship, a band of scholars arrived in Jerusalem from the east. They asked around, where can we find and pay homage to the newborn king of the Jews? We observed a star in the eastern sky that signaled his birth. We're on a pilgrimage to worship him. When the word of their inquiry got to Herod, he was terrified. And not just Herod alone, but the rest of Jerusalem as well. Herod didn't lose any time, it says. He gathered all the high priests, the religious scholars, the city, and everyone gathered around together, and he said, hey, where's this Messiah supposed to be born? They told him, come on, you don't know this? Actually, you do know this, Herod, because you've been taught this, like in Bethlehem and Judea. You know what Micah the prophet wrote. It's you, Bethlehem and Judea, that is not bringing up the rear anymore. From you will come the leader who will shepherd, rule my people, my Israel. Herod then arranged a secret meeting with the scholars from the east, and I love this, pretending to be devout. As they were, he found them and he talked about the birth of the announcement, and it appeared, and he says to them, talk about the prophecy of Bethlehem. He says, go and find this child. Leave no stone unturned. As soon as you find him, send word to me, and I will go and I'll worship him. Yeah, right, because we skip down to verses 16 and 18. It says, Herod, when he realized that the scholars, they never came back. And he realized he was tricked and duped. He flew into a rage, and it says this. Now, this is the important part. He commanded the murder of every little boy 2 years old and under who lived in Bethlehem and the surrounding hills. And that's when Jeremiah's sermon was fulfilled. A sound was heard in Ramah, weeping and lament. Rachel weeping for her children. Rachel refusing solace. Her children gone, dead, and buried. Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas. I'm sure you could get this from the story. Herod was not a nice guy. He actually, he led this way. He led with terror. We know that there was widespread surveillance on people, and if you got in his way, he didn't mind killing you. In fact, we know from history that he didn't mind killing his own family. And this is the scene that Jesus arrives in. This is where the manger scene, the silent night, everything's calm, all is bright. This is where the manger scene shows up. It shows up, I like to say, in the middle of a mess. It shows up in one of the worst seasons in history. And I love this because in the scene with Kevin, Kevin's on the run. He's fearful. He's afraid. And I love it because we overlook this. But where does he go? He doesn't go to his grandmother's. I'm assuming that his grandparents live close, I don't know why they weren't invited out on the trip, but I'm assuming his grandparents were close. He doesn't go to a friend's house, He doesn't go into the woods. I love it. He finds himself in the middle of his mess in the stable, in the manger with Jesus. There's something about the manger scene. I don't know what it is, but for Kevin, there's something about the manger scene that draws him in. There's something about the manger scene that brings comfort and peace and somewhat a bit like protection. I don't know if you do this with your families, but when our boys and Janelle and I go out and we look at Christmas lights, I love the houses that are out of control. I love the Griswold homes. Those are so much fun. We are known for parking in the middle of the street with our hazards on. We don't mind. But one of the things I love is when people have an ornate manger scene. Like there's something about it. It doesn't matter how many lights are on the house. There's something about this moment or this scene that draws us in. There's something about it that brings peace and comfort, a sense of protection, sort of this feeling of like, I'm home. I'm home. When I think about this last year, the challenges, right? The anxiousness, the politically charged landscape, thank God that's over with. The racism and inequality, the fear of the pandemic, the not knowing what's next, the question of hope, which lives really matter, the deep dive into our intrinsic value, the mental depression, the loss of a job, the breakup of a family, the loss of somebody you loved, a parent, a friend, a cousin. Like, can I just be honest? This last year has felt like a mess. And if we're really honest about our situations, many of us feel like we are doing this alone. It doesn't matter how many people are around you. It doesn't matter how many people call you. It doesn't matter how many people check up on you. It doesn't matter when you go to work or if you're going to work. I love showing up in pajamas. Like it has this feeling of we are out here alone. And so people ask me, they're like, Brad, why do you follow Jesus? What is it about Jesus that's so captivating for you? Why do you believe that Jesus is God? My question is, why would you not want Jesus to be God? Because when I look at this scene and when I look at Jesus at the center of it, this is a God who understands what we're going through. This is a God who shows up in the mess. Like when you look at this, when I look at this scene, you know what the scene says? It says, I understand. Yeah, I've been afraid. I've been on the run. Like we've been at a place where we don't know what's going to happen next. That's what this scene says to me. Like we know what it's like to be on an island and to be alone. But you know what this says to me? You know what brings me comfort and peace in this sense of like, man, like, I'm protected in all this, is this. It says, I'm with you. I am with you. I love this. Like, that's what I get. And that's why we are drawn to this scene. I I want you to know this. You are not alone. You're not doing this alone. Like when you struggle with the mourning of a loss of somebody, you're not doing it alone. When you're not sure where the money's going to come from next year, like you've been in this place. You ever wonder where my paycheck's going to come from in the next year? You're not alone. When the doctors don't have answers, you're not alone. Hey, come on. If you ever want to do something big and take a risk in life, this says you are not alone. Because I am with you. I know the mess. I've been in the mess. I've been in the fear. And this is the scene that draws us in this Christmas. I am with you. I hope these words change your perspective in the next few days and in 2021, because God is with you.